fight for justice. Oh, democracy must come if we are to rise as a nation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Content4Chiros.com. I have a very special guest here today, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Scott Stratten. He's not a chiropractor, and I know we have a lot of chiropractors on this program, but I wanted to bring him on really because of his message. And I actually picked up his book, Unmarketing. Yes, it's not a physical book because I'm actually traveling and all my books are virtual now. So for you authors out there that don't have any books that are in electronic format, guess what? I'm not reading them, not because I don't want to, but because I can't. So consider that. That being said, Scott, you're on the cutting edge of the technology. You're on the cutting edge of social media. You were doing social media. I've read your book in depth, in detail. Here's my problem. I got so wrapped up in it that I was like jumping into things that you were like talking about in the book. So if you would talk a little bit about yourself, maybe just briefly about the book and kind of where you're coming from.
Sure. I've been running Unmarketing, the company, for about 9 years now. We call it the Unagency. And, our world and our job is positioning you in front of your marketplace as an expert. So when they have the need for your product or service, they choose you. And now, I know you mentioned I'm not a chiropractor. I'm more important than that. I'm a patient. And that brings you into the mindset. I've used chiropractic before. I'm potentially looking for one now. So I'm in the exact zone that everybody watching this right now is trying to get into the mind of why. So, it's actually a good timing here right now. I'll walk you through the story of what I'm doing. See, because when you're in the bubble, when you're in your own industry, I have this with my own industry, when you're in the industry, you can't really see outside the industry, which includes your market and your customers. Because, chiropractors all day long, I've seen it. I've seen it in malls all around the world. As a chiropractor stands there with a spine in his hand and says, "Hey, come on over here. Let me touch your spine. And let me show you what you're doing." And I'm like, that's gross. Don't touch me. I don't want to see your spine. Did you rip that out of somebody? What's happening here? Right. But for me, I'm in that zone right now of eating something. I have an issue with my shoulder, my neck. I don't actually know what's wrong with it. All I know is I'm out of shape. I'm getting older, and I'm playing baseball like I was 18, and my body feels like it's 90. So it's falling apart. And I don't even have to be bought in to chiropractic. I know people who buy into it or who don't buy into it, and the objections that go with it. And I'm at the point where I'm actually not looking for which chiropractor is cheapest. I'm not looking for which chiropractor is closest to me. I'm looking for one that I think understands what I'm going through and understands my pain. Now, there's a difference there. There's a difference in mindset there, and there's a difference in marketing there. If I read something from somebody within a certain mile radius of my home, I read an article in a paper, and he's talking about how to properly diagnose a sports injury or really how to do something on a daily basis to stop a certain amount of pain, I start trusting that person. And this is where I think chiropractors fail at it, is that they forget that to build a client base, to build new clients coming in the door, they have to build trust first. Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Those are your three silos, your three pillars in business. And what are you doing? And I'm telling you, holding a spine in a mall does not build trust. It doesn't build me liking you. I might know you as the creepy guy that holds a spine in the mall. Right. What I want to find out is you're not a chiropractor necessarily to me initially. You can use all your industry terms, you can use your title. What I want you to know is you're a specialist in making me feel better in whatever methods possible, which means you become a catalyst for information, for referrals. And I'll give you an example. I'm staying in Phoenix right now at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge Spa. It's very fancy and very awesome, and the client put me up here, and I went for a massage yesterday, because remember, my body is falling apart, and I went for a massage, and I went in there, and the massage guy, knowing I'll be here for a few days, and knowing I'm spending the money on the excessive amount that massages cost and spas like this, instead of trying to pitch me on coming back tomorrow for a hot stone therapy or something, he says, you know what, you should probably go see a chiropractor for this. Okay. And he walked me through what possibly could go wrong and what they could do. So what did that do for me with him? That made me trust him more.
Right.
Right? Because he became the expert in potentially, these lingering injuries. So now I almost take his word of gospel. I almost, and if I wasn't flying out early than I was supposed to, I actually would have went back for another treatment with him just because he didn't push it on me. And to me, that's unmarketing. You're saying, look, it's not what I can offer you that's best for you. It's what's best for you overall. And that's a huge mind shift, I think, for chiropractors or for business owners in general, to say, you know what, it's not what best I got, it's what best they need. And maybe sometimes that isn't your service, but it builds up trust and it builds up that bond and relationship. Because there's a concept, and it's in the book, that trust gap.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
It's that gap between how much trust you need to have a purchase with somebody. If I have to go buy toilet paper from your store, I don't have to trust you that much. I have to trust that the toilet paper will do its job, but I really don't need much of. I don't have to get to know you for a month before I buy that toilet paper. Chiropractic, however, probably has one of the, if not the biggest trust gap there is between people who have not used chiropractic at all to getting to you to use your services. There is so much of a gap for both good reasons and unfounded reasons. Saying, I'm not going to go in there because I'm going to get my neck cracked or something. And I heard somebody died once, and you know all those myths that are flying around and stuff.
They actually say 2 years is the research average between the time somebody first hears about chiropractic and they actually come into the office for care.
Right,
so,
right. And there's a huge gap. And
that's the gap.
And we can shrink that gap by either doing trusted things. So getting, obviously, referrals, and a huge part of chiropractic business is referrals, because somebody who I trust sends me to you, so I'm going to say, okay, I trust you, so I'm going to trust this person just out of default. But there's also a way of you positioning yourself in front of your audience so that gap can shrink. So you're not going to say, hey, read this article, and here's how you fix your neck. You come in and call me. You know, and that's how they try to pitch you with it. Instead of you giving this knowledge, you have so much knowledge. And the amount of time that you guys go to school for and knowledge, like, you know, we talked before the recording here, your knowledge about certain scans for injuries and what you can do and how it can help insurance issues and stuff, that builds trust. You didn't say to me, you know what, Scott, I can hook you up with this. I can do this for you, and you just pay me for it. No, you just gave me knowledge, and knowledge is the best currency you can possibly spend out there to increase your own marketing.
And that's case in point, because I guess I'll share with this actually how I came about where we're at now, and in a very short period of time, actually. And it's this, is that, you know, traditionally, if we looked at it, if I was just somebody that was starting a business, let's say, you know, a show, a TV show, whatever it may be, I'd need a radio station, I'd need a TV studio, I'd need all the equipment and all that. Well, the technology has minimized that now. If I want to talk to an author, well, I've got to talk to maybe his agent, maybe I got to talk to the publisher, that kind of thing. Well, with me, I was like, I've been looking at the book and Unmarketing, I've been going back and forth on it. You know, I'm like anybody. I got the laundry list. I got the stack this high. I got my Kindle reader so stacked full. You know, there's all this. You know, it's like, well, who has time to read? Your book stood out, and it stood out. And it kept popping back into my head, because then I kept running into it here and there, and it was just top of consciousness stuff, which is what you're doing. You know, social media, just getting out there, providing information. So I read the book. I checked it out. I tweeted about it. You responded to it. I responded back, and the relationship began. And the next thing you know, we scheduled up this talk, and I'm like, you know what? This message is too important. Chiropractors need to hear this. All business owners need to hear it. But really, I mean, amongst chiropractic, you hit on a point. If it was a chiropractor saying what you just said, it would have went in one ear and out the other. But if it's somebody like yourself who's not a chiropractor, it's like you're like you said, you're the person that the chiropractor is trying to get into the mind of. And understanding social media, I mean, I'll just say it right now, go buy the book. Go buy your book for sure. I mean, it's like a requirement. But it's, you know, even above and beyond that, it's understanding it's not about the sales pitch. It's about the conversation. It's about the relationship. And I think that's where a lot of times people kind of mess up with social media, is they try to take this square peg and stick it in a round hole. In your book, you talk about the buyer's pyramid, or the sales pyramid. Hierarchy of buying, excuse me, thank you. The hierarchy of buying, which is in a pyramid. And I've been going through this in my head, where it's like this idea where you have this pyramid where you have the guru at the top, or the disseminator of the information. And I know you're talking about a sales model. But then what happens? Well, the information comes from the person who is the most intelligent, who's closest to the source of the information, and he disseminates it to the masses. You know, the guru. Well, what's happening with social media is that pyramid is now dropping into a circle. And now we have peer-to-peer interaction, where it's as easy for me to interact with you on Twitter in a peer-to-peer fashion, not a hierarchical fashion, and we build a relationship and we see where there's affinity, and it opens up a much broader opportunity for reaching more and just engaging more. So
it's a level playing field, and
yeah,
I love it. And it can get scary too. That companies there's no more wall, right? There's no more 5 people you have to go through to approve a press release, 1 tweet. And I've seen a couple of real bad cluster fuck-ups in the past couple of weeks of brands screwing it up because they used the wrong account. And Chrysler's example, there's Red Cross, there's Gilbert Godfrey tweeting a joke about the Japan earthquake and him losing his gig as the Aflac duck voice that he's had for years.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things there where you're right. Social media isn't a new way to put out crappy advertising. Okay, it's not a new medium to push messages. And there's a difference, right? The whole fundamental of marketing is talking about push and pray versus pull and stay. Mm-hmm. And old school marketing is pushing messages out and praying somebody buys from you. And pull and stay is literally pulling people around you and staying in front of them. If we do business with people we know, like, and trust, it works. And Twitter is a conversation. And people always say, well, I don't get it or something. And I wish we could just ignore the word Twitter and ignore the word social media and just call it talking. Right. Because that's what it is. It's virtual networking. It's like, I literally think it's a networking event. You just are at your computer. And there's advantages to that. You don't have to travel. You can hop on and off. You can choose who you talk to. You can't be cornered by the creepy dude with Scott in the corner of the networking thing for like 2 hours.
Oh, so been there, yes. Who hasn't been there?
It happened to me 2 nights ago already. So we understand that we can keep an arm's length with everybody, mm-hmm. but we can connect with them. And don't do anything in there you wouldn't do at a networking event. Don't be the one that always talks about themselves. Don't sit there and pitch products to people. You're there to get to know people. The sale happens off platform. Mm-hmm. The sale always happens off. Nobody's hired me to speak somewhere. Nobody's hired me to consult. Or nobody's bought my book, in theory, on Twitter. It happens all outside of it. Just like transactions don't happen in networking events. And we forget, to me, Twitter is not a transactional platform. Twitter is a conversational platform that can lead to those transactions off-site. It's just the initial hello. It's the getting to know people. And that's what, and it's really, to be honest, and between you and me, it's not that hard. We make it so hard sounding, and people in my bubble, in social media consultants, say, you need my 15-step program and 6 months in training. It's just talking. And it's just talking with each other and getting to know people. And if I know you and I realize you offer a service that I may need, I will go to you first before I go to Google, Yellow Pages, or anything else because I know you.
Yeah, and that's Twitter, and it opens that door. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't get it. And I opened up my first Twitter account back in early 2007, and it's like, you've heard the stories. People get on, but I came back to it, and it was like I came back to it, and I said, you know what, this is. Just put all the other stuff aside, all the talk about it. Let me just try to understand. Let me give it a fair shake. And lo and behold, it's like it clicked. And I don't know. And people say that it just clicks. All of a sudden, it just clicked for me. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like the technology, kind of the fog or the mystique of the technology kind of wears off you, and you see it for what it is. And really what it is that we're using all these technologies, social media or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter what and we're connecting with people. And I'm here in Romania, and you're in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's like we're connecting. And we're sharing a message, and we're having a conversation, and this message is going to go out to other people, and hopefully they're going to share it, and hopefully they're going to gain value from it, and on it goes. So that the speed in which we can make that happen is now coming closer. Can you talk a little bit? Can you talk a little bit more maybe on how chiropractic, maybe a couple of specifics on how chiropractors can shrink that gap?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of things too. Where Twitter is again, it's only like a car. You still need the destinations on each end to get to. Right. And what I mean by that is having a blog, having videos, having things like that are great, because what happens is we'll talk. And we'll start to get to know each other, and there'll be a point when we're talking where I will say, like anybody will say, what's this guy all about? And you'll go click, you'll read the bio, and then you'll click on the website. Right. And then I'll get to know more about you. And that, for me, is where, if you want to start shrinking the gap, start giving out your knowledge. And Twitter, 140 characters, isn't the place for you to start spewing chiropractic and spine tips. No. Okay? It's the place to have passive conversations. Okay? And once in a while, you can tweet out a tip about, whether it be a ergonomics, it could be something else, whatever it is, it's fine, but in very small moderation. But let me lead to a blog. If I want to know more about you or something, have me able to go somewhere and see it, and that's where you can position yourself. Now, I see a lot of chiropractors creating blogs and posts that are written for other chiropractors. I don't really get it. I understand why I write posts for other marketers, but other marketers are also my clients, and chiropractors aren't looking for other chiropractors to become their patients.
Right.
And so you're wording things in ways that are talking about spinal fluids and things like that, and I don't want to. We don't want to hear that as a general, especially somebody that's never used a service. Now, again, I've used chiropractic most of my life, so I have no problems with it. I understand the benefits of it. But somebody who I refer to and say, hey, go check this person out, if they start reading about that stuff, they're going to run away. They do not want to hear this stuff. So write things, and make it easy. The top 5 things for this, the top 10 ways to do this, the 5 keys of this. Make it easy, digestible, and in layman's terms, not chiropractic terms. Because you start a blog called the common person's approach to chiropractic, or the basic man's approach to wellness, whatever it's got to be. You don't even have to mention the word chiropractic in the blog. That could be in your bio. That could be what you do. But what your job is wellness. Is me feeling better, me feeling healthy. Because not only do you do adjustments, you talk about what you do in your life and how you can change those things to be better what you do. You're so much more than what people think you're doing. You're so much more above that. But the problem is, one of the biggest faults of that stereotype is you guys are perpetrating. You're putting it out there because that's all you're talking about. And I think you guys can make better information, because when I read that and realize, oh, he or she understands me, that's when that gap starts shrinking. And that's how you can start doing it, by giving knowledge. But also, that passive conversation on Twitter is a huge way to do that, because you get to know somebody. And again, when I have this conversation, if I talk to somebody about my son, or I talk to them about 80s hair bands or something like that, that gap just shrinks right up, right? It's like you and me. If you just went blindly and emailed through my site and said, can we do a Skype call, and I'd never talked to you on Twitter, this doesn't happen. Not because I'm fancy and famous trending. It's because I'm busy. I'm on a 3-week, 7-keynote thing in the States right now, and I have a bunch of stuff in between this. And for me, downtime is really important for me to be, on a self-care level too. But as soon as we talk, I actually sent. I told you to tell my assistant that I said it was okay. I said, she's like, are you sure? Did you do it? I'm like, yeah, he's a good guy, and he sent it through. But that's how it worked. But that was because we had a little passive conversation on Twitter. Right. Your first note to me wasn't, hey man, come on my show. We talk about the book, talk about whatever you want. And that's how it works. But that's how it works with patients too. Now, I'm not going to say you start talking to Twitter today and you get new patients tomorrow. No. But you start talking today, you get known. And awareness in chiropractic is one of the biggest challenges that I can see from the outside. And you only build that awareness by having conversations with people. That's,
I mean, I tell you what, I hope we can get this message out, because it's just, many chiropractors, I will say, are misinformed. And when they're misinformed, it's trying to fit this model of, I always have to be selling my services. And, it's you just gave it there, and, step by step, I couldn't, it was, this is going to be powerful, because there's chiropractors that really need to hear this. So, well, let's do this. Maybe if you can talk, let's talk about this. I want to wrap this up here, because, like you said, your time is valuable, and it's about. And the biggest thing I got from your book was that authenticity, that you really can relay some sense of authenticity, or some sense of realness about you. And it doesn't have to be this plastic, or it doesn't have to be this branded, or this designed or meticulously created in a laboratory persona. It's okay to, you get a typo on your blog post, geez, let me fix that, it's not the end of the world, though. You get, the video doesn't come out exactly just right, and you publish it, and it's like, and you've made your fair share of mistakes. So if there's, I guess, one thing you could say that, there's maybe an area that a chiropractor could focus on, like, where should they really kind of laser in on and get started first, where would that be? Maybe a Twitter account, a blog? I mean, where should they be putting their effort to kind of layer in and build up their skills?
Well, the first thing, a quick tip for them. I think you need to stop being as sterile as your chiropractic bench. You need to stop being as cold as the metal the thing is put on. Like that, personality sells. Personality attracts. Passion attracts. And there's places you can show that passion. If you are really jacked up about people feeling better in their lives and stuff like that, then show that freaking emotion. Right? As you can tell, I'm kind of passionate about people marketing themselves properly. I get really riled up right now to the point that housekeeping might break down the door in a second if I get any louder. That if you love what you do, chiropractors rarely see that. They rarely show that. You go to a blog, go to something, and it's so sterile. It's like a urine analysis lab or something like that, where it's just very right down the middle. And God forbid you say something funny or say something that is passionate. And I think if you're going to start, and I think Twitter's a good place to start. I have no stocks in them. I get nothing out of you being on there, but because it's the lowest barrier to engagement platform, you can just start talking right away. Now, when you first get on there, it seems very lonely because nobody's really listening to you. So your job when you start is to having a lot of outwards messages at people, not just general tweets or something, but toward people. There's no such thing as interrupting somebody on Twitter, and I jump in there. Facebook's great, 600 million people. It's a wonderful platform, and it's horrible to get known on because all the walls are up. Like you can have your chiropractic page on there, and you have 8 people who like it or something. It's really hard to get traction, and I really advise you, regardless of which one you pick one to start with. I call it platforming. You pick one platform and grow it. For me, when I wanted to really build a Twitter following, I lived on it for 30 days and really lived on it for 6 months before I explored anything else. I killed it on Twitter for 6 months before launching my blog. Okay. And then I grew my blog. And then I grew LinkedIn. And then I grew Facebook. And then Foursquare. And I grew whatever I did to try it all out. But we all have a limited amount of time. I get that. And if you only have a few hours a week that you think you can spare, I'd rather you spend 20 minutes a day on Twitter than like 3 hours once a week. It's the continuous, constant conversation that creates that relationship, that creates that bond. And understand, if you look at my Twitter account, if you go to Unmarketing on Twitter, you'll see I'm just under 70,000 tweets. Right. But you understand the stat isn't the number of tweets I've made. The stat that's important is that 75% of those tweets are replies. You can go to a site called tweetstats.com and run my name. You'll see that stat sitting there. It has been the same percentage from 1,000 tweets to 70,000 tweets. Okay. Right? That it's the conversation that makes Twitter work, not the dictation of stuff.
Now, if I could, and I want to get in just a little specific here because I think this is important. If you could clarify, I mean, does that mean you're looking for questions to answer, or are you just trying to engage in and say, hey, or can you maybe give a couple suggestions maybe on how you kind of broach that?
Yeah, well, it's a little different from when I started. January 1st, 2009 is when I said I'm going to live on Twitter for 30 days. I tweeted almost 7,000 times in that month, which is excessive for anybody. But what I did before I got a lot of traction, my job every day was to write 3 to 5 tweets that I thought were helpful, that were within my world. So mine was business or Twitter or try to be funny. You can throw in a couple inspirational quotes, whatever you want. But the rest of the time, I looked for conversations to jump into that I thought were interesting. I started following people. Now, my biggest mistake when I started that on Twitter, my biggest mistake is I used a third-party site to auto-follow back everybody who followed me. That was a bad move. I followed 32,000 people, and I never look at it. I have a hidden list called my Awesome Sauce list. That's who I look at. Yeah. Right? And it was a huge mistake. Only follow people you think you like or you're interested in. And then just check out what they're saying. Trust me, once you start following about 30, 40 people, and you log in, they'll be saying a bunch of things. If you like something they're saying, retweet it. Send it back out to your followers, even if you don't have many. You don't need 85,000 followers. You want 8. You want 10. You want to just start. There is no number to hit to say, okay, now I get it. It just takes a while to get traction. Now, I wake up every day and I have 50, 60 things I could reply to overnight. So I'm on a different stage of that. It's like this inertia is built in and it just keeps going now. But my job now is to make sure watching anybody who mentions the book, and that's how we start talking.
Right, yeah. Sure it was.
And I can't write a book about engagement then not engage. And for me, that's what I'm looking for. So I only have a limited amount of time like everybody does. So my job when I get on there is make sure anybody's asked me a direct question, I want to make sure I try to answer. And everybody's mentioned the book, I want to acknowledge that. And then I can look at my awesome sauce list and see what my buddies are doing that day. And that's kind of my priority when I'm on Twitter.
All right. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate here because this is a question that I get commonly too. You know, I'm a chiropractor, I'm in a small town, or, you know, I'm in a metropolis, whatever it may be. You know, some people using Twitter. How can I engage in that local conversation? Any suggestions there?
Well, if it's not, remember, I don't think that everybody should be on Twitter.
Okay.
I think that if you don't like people, it's a bad place to go. I do know certain towns, certain demographics aren't all on there. You know, if your town is very small, you have 1 or 2 people on that could be on Twitter, it's probably not a place to be. However, you could choose to be the catalyst for conversation and try to get people onto that network, and please, and I thank you for asking this because I forgot to mention, social networking, virtual networking is not a replacement for in-person networking.
Right.
Okay? It's a complement to it. The best thing, nothing beats this. Nothing beats face-to-face. But please don't go to the Chamber of Commerce event or the networking event that you go to and walk in with a spine in your hand.
Yes.
Just walk in with an open mind and say hi to people. Right. I don't even bring business cards to it. I'm just there to get to know people. Right. And that's the best thing you can do. An awareness type of thing is a great thing. Write articles for the local paper. If you're in your small town, get an article in there. They're dying for content. Most of the time they don't pay, but you get a byline. There's a chiropractor in my hometown in Oakville. It's called the Oakville Frickin' Beaver is the newspaper. And I got chiropractor writes there once every 2 weeks. And they're really well-written columns, and I like them. And they're not baiting me to come in. They're good. So I start trusting the guy, and that's probably the guy I'm going to be going with. Okay, good. And that's I think right there, doctors, I think you heard it right there. We've taken it all the way from social media. An expert in social media who was in social media many times way before. How long has your company been up? 9 years? 9 years.
9 years. So we're talking 9 years. You've been through the trenches. You've been through, the bumps and the bruises. There's doctors out there, same thing. I've been in practice for 13 some odd years. And, you go through your bumps and bruises in business. That's just the reality of it. So we take it from that. We take it all the way down to the local level where, doctor, now you've got a couple things of what you can do. Go show up to the networking events. If they don't have social media, you know what? Be the pioneer. Bring social media to it. If they're not Twittering, they got a cell phone. Most of them people have iPhones or they have BlackBerries, whatever it may be. Engage. Get them engaged and be the leader in that respect. And that's even going to get you some credibility boost there. So I want to go ahead, Scott, I want to thank you for coming on Content4Chiros.com. This has been great. I've had a blast. I want to thank everybody for watching and keep in touch. Reach out to us at Twitter. Scott, you're at, what's your Twitter handle so they can have it?
Everything's Unmarketing. Twitter's Unmarketing. Site's Unmarketing.com. Facebook's Unmarketing.
You got it. And you can reach me at Content4Chiros, all right, on Twitter, and reach out to me on the website, Content4Chiros.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
For justice, democracy must come if we are to rise as a nation. I'm fighting, still fighting, keep fighting. Don't give up on your belief. And even though we're dying, crying, the battle was not won by the wind. This blood I'm spilling, keep spilling, must account for something. Our hands are reaching, keep reaching. The brass ring is still inside, so we must fight. We must fight. We the people have come to apply for justice. Democracy must come.